Welcome one and all to Umami Manga. I'm one of your hosts, Petter, and with me I got my co-host, James.
Hey.
And today we're talking about Volume 9 of To Your Eternity. I don't know if I have anything to say before we get into the individual character discussions. Usually I find something a little bit to say, but do you have anything you want to say to kick things off? Or
I think this is really interesting lore, mind-blowing stuff that we got here.
Oh,
I
yes.
think I enjoy overall the story moments more in the previous volume, but in this volume you get some big lore reveals and understanding Fushi and his powers so much more, and
Oh,
it's
yes.
exciting to see,
Mm-hmm.
and you feel like the overarching plot is actually taking some steps forward. We're
Yeah.
understanding more of the goals of some of the more mysterious figures.
Absolutely. Yeah, I can't wait to get there in the discussion later on. But
Mm-hmm.
absolutely. Yeah, definitely a lot of lore stuff, both for Fushi and for the Knockers. But yeah, very exciting. So let's start by talking about Fushi, as we usually do. After being weighed down for so long now over not being able to save a lot of the people around him, Fushi actually successfully and very cleverly, dare I say, saved Bond's life in this book
Yeah,
at the beginning,
he
pretty
finally
much.
saved someone.
Yeah.
Well, I guess technically Bon died,
Right.
but
Yeah.
but yeah, he did. He did save him,
Right.
and I think it's fair to say he saved a lot of people, but
Yeah.
maybe not somebody as close to him as Bone is. Not being able to say Gugu and all them, but
Yeah.
um, I think it was such a great little moment for Fushi to hear that from Bone and just feel accomplished and feel like he's grown so much,
Right. Yeah. Precisely. He's not as helpless as he thought he was.
or as it used to be.
And as he used to be. Exactly. Yeah. Thinking back to like volume 1 and 2, he was really just
Mm-hmm.
a bystander in those. And
Yeah.
then it's really moved on steadily from there up to this point where he is completely in control. Well, sort of. He's doing all these
Mm-hmm.
things himself and taking action and all that. It's been an amazing journey so far. It really has.
Yeah. He also saved Iddy, who, the little girl he picks up. He basically
Yes.
saved her from whatever thing was going on with that circus freak show type of scenario. So
Exactly.
he kind of saves a couple of people. Now, it's not the same extent as Bone because he just met Iddy, but
Mm-mm.
it just shows that he's still saving people.
Exactly. And getting into a little bit like I guess easing us into like the new powers and stuff we learn about his powers in this volume. Something that I don't think we had seen in any of the previous volumes that we got very early in this one was that Fushi can create lifeless bodies of people that aren't dead. I don't think we had ever seen him do that before.
Create bodies of the people that aren't dead.
Right.
Hmm. And now that I think about it, yeah. Huh. Good point. I didn't even think about that.
Right.
You're right. That's interesting.
So yeah, that is interesting to I guess to know that that's a possibility from here on out.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know when Fuji himself realizes. Oh, actually, didn't he? That crab that he has as one of his forms. Didn't he create a lifeless husk of that before they boiled it? Actually,
Maybe.
I should have looked this up
I can't
before.
remember.
Maybe that may have been the first instance of that happening, but obviously, I guess it wasn't as clear as at least I thought it was in this volume, where he made Iris and the little boy in the cages early on, and then obviously
Mm-hmm.
uh,
Chabo.
Bon as well. Right.
Yeah, they just kind of gloss over it so
Mm.
nonchalantly, like it's not that big of a deal.
Mm.
That I didn't really think about it. But even that crab, like, did we? I don't remember when was the moment that he first became the crab.
I mean, he definitely didn't like he himself didn't become the crab until after they had eaten it. I'm sure, or I'm quite sure. But I
Okay.
do think he made a lifeless replica of it before it was made for lunch. I think.
Hmm.
I could be wrong about this, but yeah.
Okay.
Just like a small little new power. Well, I mean, maybe it's big, but compared to what we learned later on in the volume, this is like a small little new power that we learned for Fushi in this volume,
Gotcha.
or at least that I observed. I love how Fushi uses the wolf's name, Juan, to kind of lay low, or like as a disguise name now,
Mm-hmm.
since he's supposed to be dead. I think that's really nice because that really was his first name. Like that's the first name anyone called him by ever.
It's true.
So
It's true.
I think that's really sweet.
And it probably helps that it's not a person's name that he grew emotionally attached to.
Oh yeah, that too.
Like using Reen's name or
Oh yeah.
Corona's name probably wouldn't sit right with him.
Yeah, that would be a bit weird.
I guess speaking about that moment, as he was having tea time with the ladies, uh, Fushi kind of has a big mouth, or he at least he doesn't understand what things should be kept secret. At
Oh
least
yeah.
in terms of more lighthearted conversation.
Yeah.
We saw this in the previous volume with Toto, and I guess revealing to Bon that she liked him.
Mm,
But we see it again here that
yeah.
oh, where'd you say that thing? Anyway, I don't know if that's gonna come up again later on, but I find it kind of endearing that he's gotten to the point where he's become so observant and aware that he can point these things out, but he still doesn't understand like maybe some social tendencies and the
Yeah.
right time.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, he spent 40 years completely isolated
True.
from everything.
True.
So I think, yeah, that's a fair.
Yeah, he definitely gets a pass.
But yeah. He gets a pass, but I think I think you're absolutely right, like in saying that. He defeated the Knockers at the church, I think, pretty much completely by himself, or at least,
Yeah.
yeah, it looked that way. Which I think was the first time he defeated like a Knocker attack by himself since Volume 2. I think that's the only other time that he's actually completely alone been able to defeat a Knocker, or several or whatever.
We're not including the time he was by himself on the island. We're not
Oh,
including that.
oh my God! How did I forget? Yeah, sure. Yeah, actually, yeah.
Oh,
Okay, that's that's multiple times. You're so right. You're so right. Yeah,
okay.
I guess it's not that strange then, seeing as yeah, he definitely has a lot of experience from there. Yeah,
But
yeah,
I was following what you were putting down, what you're saying, because he hasn't really successfully stopped a knocker attack in a city or in a great
right.
populous place by himself. He usually had someone to help him in some
True.
capacity.
True. That's a first completely because back in Volume 2, that was just like in a forest with no one really around. I mean, Piorin was there, but this is obviously a completely different scale. He lost a lot of vessels in the process, sadly, but he did ultimately defeat the Knockers at a
Right.
pretty big
Hmm.
cost. And then he lost even more, or a couple more, vessels when he battled in the swamp.
I think it was really smart of him to keep a catalog of all of his friends that
Yeah.
he's made along the way.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, it didn't help him remember them. There's something more supernatural or something, I guess, about that he just can't remember it. But
Right.
I think it's helpful for him to understand the people he's lost
Yeah.
and get them back.
Yeah, it's worth a try, like doing what he did
Right.
with like the little, well, yeah, the catalog with all his forms and memories, his friends, and it was really cute.
Hmm.
Like he had even drawn them, like drawn pictures of them. Like you could see March there. It was really sweet.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. But yeah, it is really sad that he, after, especially in this book, when he lost so many of them at once, how he just didn't have any recollection of them. Like he didn't know who he didn't remember and like all that. That's so sad, I think.
Yeah.
And about Fushi's horse, which
Hmm.
we talked about. What's it, last volume that it was introduced the first time? I think so.
Hmm.
Yeah. Do you have any speculations to continue on with for that?
speculations,
Well,
more
I
like
guess it's not even speculations.
declarations. I was correct.
Yeah, you were.
Okay,
You
but
were.
let me say it wasn't that hard. I mean,
No.
to be like, oh hey, that we know that Bjorn's going to come back into this somehow because of the beholder, and then seeing the mole on the horse just kind of made me think it was Bjorn.
Yeah.
But what I didn't expect, well, two things. I didn't expect the horse to jump off a cliff and just kind of die. It looked like it died and then just heal itself. So,
Mhm.
those two things kind of shocked me. But interestingly enough, we speculated in our discussion about Pioran way back when she died in Volume 6.
Mm.
How would she come back? And the last thing we mentioned was, what if she comes back as a part of Fushi, like not just a form, but she becomes like the same substance as Fushi.
Yes. Yeah. You had that speculation. I thought that was really interesting because, well, I think back then you said like she would come back as like some like an item out of the same material as Fushi. I think something like that. You
Yeah.
said.
Oh yeah. I think it was something like
I
that.
think, but still, like this is very close to that, which I was very impressed by that, honestly.
That was yeah. It was very interesting. But obviously, I didn't expect it to be a horse
Well, fair, fair.
at the time.
But actually, speaking of that, back in that volume 6, when Perona passed away. No, not Perona. Pioran.
Pioran.
When Pioran passed away.
Did I say Perona earlier?
I don't know, but we know who we're talking. I don't think you. I think you said the right name.
Okay.
I think you said the right name.
Gotcha.
Anyway, it's just those P names. I get them all.
Yeah,
mixed
man.
up. And anyway, back in volume 6, in that final chapter, I think like it wasn't too long before she passed away. In a conversation with Fushi about her past, she said, "I used to work like a horse."
Oh,
I
really?
Yes. I considered pointing that out back when we talked about Volume 6, but ultimately I didn't because I felt like maybe that would have been too much of a giveaway, perhaps. But it's
Yeah.
a really nice thing, when you reread the volumes, because obviously I didn't notice that or pick up on that the first time I read it. But I thought that was really nice when I read Volume 6, the last time before we talked about it.
Wow, what a foreshadow.
Yeah.
So I didn't mean to go into like pure and full head on that, but I mean it all involves Fushi anyway.
Exactly, yeah. Like anything on the horse and pure in here, like we should talk about it here, I think.
Gotcha.
Definitely interesting to have another possibly immortal creature now.
Yeah.
Like the beholder doesn't say like outright that she's or that the horse is immortal, but he does say at least that it does have outstanding kind of regenerative abilities.
Yeah.
And whether or not it ages, I don't know. I mean, we can't know. I guess my guess is probably that it will die from age eventually, because
Oh, okay.
it's basically the same as Fushi minus the transformation abilities, right? Which should mean that
Oh, good point.
because Fushi ages if he doesn't transform, so the horse should also age,
Well,
I guess.
and that actually gets into a thought that I had a while ago, in that if Fushi were to never transform, he could technically die of old age.
I think so.
I
Yeah.
think.
Mm-hmm.
But then he would just come back as whatever.
Exactly. Yeah. It wouldn't be
just
lethal,
revive himself.
probably. But yeah.
Right, right. So would that be the same case for Horse Pioran?
Ooh.
Would she reach a certain age as a horse and die and then just come back?
Fair point.
Since she is the same material.
That is very possible because when Fushi originally left the snowy lands, he died over and over and over again on his journey to the mountains.
Right.
But just kind of spontaneously, regenerated.
Came back.
So yeah, it's very possible that even like it might work even that way from if you die from old age in this with the system, perhaps. And if you and maybe you then come back as like the starter age or whatever you want to call it, like the whatever age you are. We don't know much about this horse. Was this horse born?
Right.
Yeah,
that's another thing.
Or was it created as it looks right now by the beholder? I guess we don't know that for sure. But anyway, yeah, it's possible that it could live forever with Fushi. It's also a possibility that it might die and cease to exist eventually. It remains to be seen.
It would be interesting if Pioran, for I don't know, if Pioran just kept coming back as a new
Ooh,
tool for Fushi in some way, like her
yeah,
reincarnation, similar to Hayase's reincarnation.
right.
It just keep coming back, just in different ways, though.
Totally, yeah. Yeah, that would be really cool.
I don't know what way, but
Right. Could be fun though. Anything more on Pioran or the horse?
it's really tangent. But or a small thing. I didn't expect the fish to be the thing that awakens Fushi's realization that
Yeah.
this is Bjorn. So it's kind of like, huh, was the fish that big of a deal for her? But I look
I
back and
think it was.
whenever on their journey, they eat fish.
Yeah.
At least towards the beginning. So it's like, oh, good. That's a good callback that I really didn't put
Mm,
together until just thinking about it. So
yeah.
it
Yeah.
wasn't what I expected. I I really thought maybe the beholder would have to point it out, or Fushi would recognize it in a different way. But
Right. Yeah, yeah.
so yeah.
It was good. It was very good. I guess moving on to one of the big reveals or big improvements for Fushi, how he learns to
Mm-hmm.
create things out of other things that he has created that are still attached to him in order to spread out further and in turn be able to sense knockers and other things from farther away. Really cool ability that makes a lot of sense. And also, I love how it kind of also like gives further reason to the thing that we've talked about before, how like his clothes are attached to his body when he
Right?
transforms into someone, like, and like all of those sorts of things that have sort of just been there for aesthetics so far, but now it all kind of serves a purpose. So yeah, I thought that was really cool.
Yeah. I believe the volume kind of references that as the sensory cortex, or at least his ability to sense uh, everything that's attached to him in some way.
Yeah.
And it's really cool to see that kind of expansion
Mm.
and revelation of his powers
Uh-huh.
and show that in a lot of ways it's similar to how the beholder works. And obviously we'll go in detail on beholder later, but
Yes.
I, I, I think that there is so much more to Fushi that we understand
Hmm.
now, and
Yeah.
this is just one more step into completely understanding, I guess.
Absolutely. Yeah, like just thinking back to like the first volume, all we knew about him then was that he was immortal and he could shapeshift. Essentially, that like those were his powers then.
Right.
And like and looking at him now, like we could have never imagined like all of the things he's doing now. For like back then, we couldn't have imagined like he would be able to do all these sorts of things. And and that just makes me wonder how many more things don't we know of still that he might be able to do in the future.
Hmm.
I think that's really interesting. And like and what's cool also is that these things all make sense. Like whenever we learn about these new things, it always makes sense, source like in some way.
Yeah,
And it's just so well done. I love how Oyama writes this.
indeed.
Anything more on this new power?
At the very end of the volume, Bone comments that Fushi makes his own little planet, and I think I think that's some I think a nice foreshadowing, and I'll go into that into I guess predictions and
Right.
whatnot.
Yes.
But I really like that because I mean he really was creating his own kind of climate, not climate, biome, like
Yeah.
his
Uh
own
huh.
little area, and they were all connected to him. Now, you notice that he picked up a cup and they still had like the fibers attached to it. That's a little different than how the actual world is. You know what I mean? You
Well,
don't
yeah.
pick up an object and something is connected to it in that way.
Mm.
But I think eventually it could get to that point where things are all connected, maybe through these invisible strings of some sort.
Yeah, and like didn't Bond say something like when he picked the cup up? Didn't he say like this is still fresh or something like that? Or am I making that up?
Yeah, yeah. No,
Um,
no, he did say that.
right. Or like, yeah, it's still new. He says Fushi made it. So that might indicate that those strings after Fuji creates stuff like that, those strings might disappear after some time has passed, perhaps.
Oh, okay.
Like that's maybe something that that Bond knows because he has spent time with Fushi and seen Fushi create things in the past, possibly. But yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure this will be clear soon enough.
Sure.
But yeah, yeah, very very cool stuff.
I love where this is going.
Yes, yeah, it's awesome, really really cool. Like the final page of this book is like
Mm-hmm.
so cool. Like can't wait to read on. um, but the last thing I have on Fushi for this discussion here is about the woman in the town, the woman that he
Ah.
gave some money to, and
Mm-hmm.
she, well, I mean, it became a misunderstanding ultimately, but her words to Fushi about controlling people really stuck with him after that. Like, he couldn't really stop thinking about it, and yeah, I'm just curious, I guess, to like how that is going to affect, like, if that's going to continue being a thing that is in his mind, and like how, and if so, how is it going to, like, what effect is it going to have, sort of.
Yeah, I mean, in in one way, I can see where the lady is coming from.
Yeah.
You know, not wanting to be looked down on, or but also, you shouldn't try to control people or control people in the sense of gaining their loyalty or just trying to save them. But at the same time, it kind of bewilders me because it really kind of messes Fushi's thinking, and I just wonder what was the point of all that. What was the point of her bringing that up,
Mm.
other than I guess to create some conflict within Fushi, but conflict that I don't quite understand. Like I don't understand why that would be issue. To me, it almost makes no sense that she would say that, this lady.
Hmm.
Even though I said I understand where she's coming from.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Like it's like surely she had, like, in the past she's probably had like men come up to her with money and like maybe expected something from her for giving her that money. Maybe perhaps
Maybe.
maybe she's had bad experiences in that regard, and so
Mm-hmm.
that's why she has, like, why she reacts so strongly when Fushi comes up to give her that sack of money. Although,
Yeah.
but yeah, like it's I guess it's complicated. Like obviously Fushi didn't mean anything by it. He didn't understand why she
Of
would
course.
react that way. He only wanted to help out. So yeah, yeah, it's interesting. At least he he paid the fruit vendors and stuff in the town.
Yeah.
He didn't
He's
just,
like, man, that's a bad habit.
yeah. Although he still probably paid them with money that he created out of his palms.
Yeah, I
So,
mean,
but hey, it's fine. He's out there, doing his best to save the world. So he's
he gets a
good.
pass.
Yeah,
That's his day. That's his job.
exactly. Yeah. Anything more on Fushi? I'm done personally.
A couple things, but one, I just wanted to express again that I'm still not sure what the whole point of that was and why he was so caught up in it. I hope
Mm,
I kind of hope we get a little more explanation into his mindset with that.
absolutely.
I guess it shows or at least Fushi thinks about the few times that he's been saved and that these people weren't trying to control him that way, clearly,
Right.
but he still kind of has an issue with it. So I don't know. I guess it's just a concept that is hard for me to wrap my mind around.
Mm,
The only other thing I have is more about the ship where he's doing his training at. I guess
yeah.
it's a massive ship. Like this thing is huge.
Oh yes.
Like on the outside, it actually didn't look too big. Like I mean, it was a good size, but
Right.
if you go inside, it's like these huge walls or like, scaffolding. I was like, wow, incredible! This is the biggest ship that's been in this story since Gugu and Reen. Yes, that
Yeah.
was a setup for that entire joke. Thank you
Nice.
for coming.
I applaud you. I applaud you.
Still,
That was
that's a
good.
pretty big ship.
That was good. Nice work. Yeah, but yeah, it is a good ship. It is a good ship. Anything else on Fushi?
That's it.
Cool, cool. Then I want to actually move on to Iri next,
All
and
right.
I have a reason why. There's one thing I want to kind of just get out of the way related to her.
Okay.
It's about her name,
Oh.
and obviously she got her name in the English translation from not being able to pronounce the word kitty correctly, and
Oh.
it became Iri. Her original
Did she
name,
say Kochan or something like that?
it's Eko after Neko. Not she.
Oh, Echo. Okay.
Similarly,
Gotcha.
she skips the initial sound.
Yeah, ne.
Yeah, so it just becomes, instead of Neko, it becomes Echo. And I sort of prefer to call her Echo, uh,
Sure. I'm fine with that.
because for one, it's her like original name, and secondly, I kind of think it sounds better.
Yeah, I didn't really like the Itty name either, to be honest.
Right, cool, cool. So we're on the same page then. So yeah, and also the at least the physical books, they do use the word itty, and I mean I understand why, you know, even though I don't like it, I do understand why. Like there's definitely logic to it. But they also use Fushi's Japanese name, Fushi, like Fushimi,
Oh, and
you
the
know.
physical?
Yes. They don't call him Imo, which I've heard elsewhere in other translations. They call him Imo,
Yeah.
which I don't like either. Although I
Yeah.
understand it makes sense.
Yeah, Crunchyroll's translation does that.
Gotcha. So at least Crunchyroll is consistent with using Imo and Iri, both of which being, well, translations. Meanwhile, the physical books are inconsistent in that way because they don't translate Fushi, but they do translate Iri into, or they do translate Echo into Iri. So it's just weird, I think. But anyway, I suggest we call her Echo, since we are calling Fushi Fushi.
Sounds good with me.
Cool.
And honestly, Echo may make more sense with her character, kind of. Just with the whole. I mean, okay, you look at Echo, and then you also can think of the English word echo.
Right. Okay.
And I think her her people seem to be from a cave or something, and maybe there was maybe echoes have something to do with the pot as well. Maybe there's like echoes of emotions that are in there. I don't know. It's probably a little bit of a stretch, but
I mean, I don't know.
anyway.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, we don't know. Maybe there will be a second meaning to it down the line. We don't know, but yeah, that's kind of the thing I wanted to just get out of the way about her name there, and well, I guess what we learn about her is that she and her brother, they were kidnapped and taken away from their home, and used for some kind of freak show. Her brother sadly died, and their people communicate with each other through this jar thing. Really interesting stuff.
I was gonna say pot.
A pot. Yeah, I think maybe the volume calls it a pot. But whatever, like jar pot.
Wrong kind of pot.
Yeah. But yeah. So very interesting people, like, or at least from what we learn through Echo, like, it would be really interesting to see these people, like the full society of them, like, would be really interesting, I think, because they're clearly supernatural to some extent, you know, communicating through jars like this.
Yeah, it's
And
really weird.
and it's not like the magic of it isn't solely in the jar itself. It's also in their biology or physiology somehow. Since Fuji wasn't able to communicate with her through the jar until he took the shape of her brother. So yeah, really, really interesting people.
Echo is kind of a curveball of a character in this story. Yeah, you think, okay, this is the training arc, training montage time for Fushi, and then he picks up what's essentially a daughter of sorts. I mean,
Yeah.
maybe that relationship is not. It's not quite right, I think, but he kind of it has become a parental figure to her at this moment. Maybe it's
sure.
more like babysitting, but still, it's very interesting that at this point in the story, he just picks up someone and now he's part of his kind of entourage. So I don't know. It's I'm interested to see where Echo goes from here.
Absolutely. I love her. I just gotta say I love her.
Yeah, she seems very sweet. I mean, she's works so hard to. She sees a leak. It's like, I gotta fix that leak.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, this place is so leaky. Oh man, it's gonna take for hours to
Yeah.
fix this place.
She's running like to fetch buckets to like
So
keep the water out. Like so cute, so cute. And also I love how like when Fushi turned into the wolf, like just to kind of be a little funny with her, like she got so scared of the wolf.
oh,
But she loved Mir, like Reen's dog. She loved
oh,
that.
she
That was so
puff dog moment.
so cute. And she was like hugging the cat too.
Oh
Like and the
yeah.
cat just didn't want to be hugged. That was also really fun. Like there were a lot of like really funny and cute little moments. And I think one of my favorite was the bathing scene.
Yeah.
Sort of was also
Yeah.
really cute and fun.
It was very playful. Like, she like literally grabs Fushi into the water.
Yeah.
She's
uh,
so playful.
so nice. So good.
How does one get that incredibly dirty? Like, so when I first saw her, I wondered if it was just what they look like. Like, what if it was just their skin type or tone or whatever.
Uh-huh.
And then the bathing happens. Like, okay, well, she looks like incredibly white.
Uh-huh.
Uh, so what's the deal?
Right.
And obviously I can't say for sure because you look at a little bit of a flashback. Once, I think it's once Fushi transformed into her brother.
Yeah.
You see them in a like a, I don't know if it's a cave or a forest, but they look like they're muddy.
Yeah.
So maybe that's just what their people did. Like they rolled around in mud, or they just never bathed. I
Yeah.
have no idea. Or could this just be part of this circus society guy's act, where he just stole these children,
Ah.
and it's like, okay, we gotta make it a little pizzazzy, roll around in this mud for a long time. Perfect. I
Yeah.
don't know.
My initial thought was really just that it's well sort of that their people just don't, I guess they don't clean themselves, like that's just not part of their like what they do, I guess. Although I mean of course I can't say for sure.
Yeah.
Very very mysterious culture, which again I would love to see them like more up close and like to meet maybe for Fuji to meet those people at some point. That would be so cool.
Oh yeah. It'd be great, and just to have a little more fantastical side. I mean, we the fantasy has been there, but
Yeah.
now we get like a people who could be purely fantastical, and I
Definitely.
like that.
Right, exactly.
Moving on real quick to the jar. The jar itself is made almost like made with like wet clay or mud or something, because her hands, whenever she touches it, are constantly
Yeah.
muddy or dirty.
Right.
I wonder if that has any reasoning behind why they are covered in dirt. Like maybe their people are just kind of one with the one with the earth, and they ritually just smother the stuff in that so they can better communicate with each other that way. I don't know.
And yeah, like they're the according to the guy who kidnapped them,
Uh huh.
they're called, well, Doki.
Oh yeah.
He says I captured a pair of the famous Doki, the legendary earthenware people. So the
Right. Right.
earthenware, like they have earth in their name, or at least according to this guy. So earth might
Mm-hmm.
be like earth slash mud or dirt, whatever, might
Right.
be important to their people somehow.
I have thoughts about that, but I'll save that for later.
Yes, yes.
Do you have any idea? Well,
Hmm?
so hard to ask you questions.
I mean, go for
The
it.
expressing the emotions through the pot is so bizarre to me. I don't know what to make of it.
Yeah, it's really cool. Like I love it because it's an idea that I don't feel most writers would come up with. Like it feels
Hmm.
very out there, kind of,
Yeah.
and sort of and like very unpredictable.
I think it's very unique, and because of that, it's hard for me to wrap my mind around.
Mm,
I
mm.
can't quite comprehend, but I hope I imagine going forward will more light will be shed on it, and I'm excited to see what the reasoning behind that could be.
For sure, for sure. Yeah, yeah. It's very very mystical. I like it. I guess we're moving on then.
Yeah.
So let's talk about Bonchien. Or should I say Baron Springroll?
Paris. Uh, he's no longer a bonbon. He's now a spring roll.
Exactly. Yes. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. As we talked about last time, they're all like different things you eat.
Siblings were sweets, right? Maybe.
Yeah,
And
like a
then
cake and like cocoa, perhaps, maybe.
maybe I don't know. Anyway,
At least.
uh, but the bone we know is dead, gone.
Mm-hmm.
See ya. Bye bye.
Yep. Yep.
And now we have kind of a new, changed bone. A
Absolutely. He looks so great in his new haircut.
Oh well, that too. I think his old style was pretty great. Not gonna lie, in his own way. But no,
Absolutely.
I think he looks very very good and I guess normal.
Right. I mean, yeah, definitely more normal than before.
Hmm.
Yeah. What I thought was, or something that caught me by surprise, kind of, at the beginning of this volume for Bon was how he couldn't bring himself to speak ill of Fushi, even though it was just to fool the church.
Yeah, I loved it.
Even then, he just had to say he was like that he loved Fushi, which led to his almost execution. So
I mean, I think it's. I found it kind of obvious that he's saying that to make himself look bad in the eyes of the church, so that he can sacrifice himself for good as people. But I agree with you that it was also him defending Fushi, and not basically not leaving him, or not, or standing by him.
yeah,
And I like that.
absolutely. Yeah, he is very loyal to Fushi in a lot of ways,
Hmm.
obviously, as we have this as evidence for, but still he's not telling Fushi about the ability to revive dead people. Even, like throughout this whole volume, he's still keeping that a secret.
Yeah. Although he seemed to have a good reason not to, at least mid volume, based on what Fushi told him, and I guess he felt it just wasn't the right time.
Hmm.
I think before those could have been the right time. I mean, I mean, I did mention in previous discussions that I was kind of antsy and anxious about that. Like, oh, how is that going to go down when he finds out?
Mm-hmm.
But I think it could have worked out for the good if Fushi had found out. Now, I mean, maybe it really doesn't matter, but perhaps Bowen wisely decided to hold off on that because I can't see it being a selfish reason, you know?
But Fushi said he would be happy if his friends could live with him as immortals.
Yeah, totally. And that was the answer he wanted to hear. At least it's what Bowen said, but
Yeah.
I don't know. It's not quite clear, and maybe there's reasoning from, you know, the the spirits that are around Fushi. Maybe they have a say in all that because he does talk to somebody uh,
Yeah.
before that whole journey thing begins. So
Yes.
I don't know if that has a play in it all.
But yeah, he was very grateful. I think we touched on it earlier when we talked about Fushi. He was very grateful to Fushi for having saved him the way he did. And he sort of
Mm-hmm.
realized that being together with his family and with his friends is far more important than being a king.
Yeah.
So I think, I mean, that obviously that's a great kind of confirmation, I guess, on his character development.
Mm-hmm.
We already pretty much knew it. We talked about it last time for the last volume about how his time
Right.
in when he was imprisoned definitely changed him. But here we definitely see it very clearly that it has changed him very much for the better.
Yeah. Totally.
Hmm.
It's refreshing to see a happy ending of sorts in this story. I know his story is not over and there's more to do, but this kind of it almost feels like that was the finale of that mini arc in this
Mm.
greater arc.
Yeah, yeah.
So yeah, I thought that was just really heartwarming to see.
Right, exactly. And I think at the end of volume 7, it said that the Uralis arc begins. I think I pointed that out when we talked about volume
Mm-hmm.
7. So that was the previous volume and this one. But at the end of this volume, it says that the Renril arc begins.
Ah, so the arc did it.
I guess so. I guess you could say it did. I mean, obviously the story continues, but I guess this is how at least Oima or the publisher or whoever has
Mm-hmm.
divided the arcs. So the Renreal arc supposedly begins with the next volume, and that's where we see Bond travel, or well, he talks to the princess of Renreal
Mm-hmm.
during this volume, and he's warning her about the Nokker attack, and she is kind of doubtful of him. Like she doesn't fully trust him, sadly. And some of those like panels from that scene were played sort of at the same time when Fushi was interacting with that woman on the streets who accused him of controlling her or controlling people.
Yeah.
And I thought the scene between Bon and the Princess of Renreal in a way mirrored that, because it was definitely like both of
Mm-hmm.
those instances dealt with misunderstandings, as well as the other person sort of accusing the person that we know in each of the respective scenes of trying to take control in some sense. So I thought that was just like
Or at the very least, ulterior motives.
right, exactly. So yeah, I thought it was nicely mirrored in that regard.
Yeah, I noticed that as well, but I didn't know how to put it together or what it was meaning. Maybe it was just
Yeah,
uh, literally poetic.
yeah,
I can't speak. Maybe it was just poetic.
Mhm.
Yeah, but I think your explanation makes it a lot clearer, so I appreciate that.
And although I mean, I still can't say exactly like if there is some deeper meaning to, especially the interaction between Fushi and that woman.
Oh,
You know that's still a bit unclear as to like where that's going to lead. But I do have hopes and expectations
right.
that it will have an effect somehow later on in the story.
I wasn't trying to say that what you said makes me think this that will have importance. More so that you also saw that there was
Mm,
some sort of something being mirrored there,
right.
and it, explained the whole controlling thing. So I appreciate that. But
Cool.
yeah, I think that just going back to Spring Baron Springroll here,
Yeah.
just all the way to the end of this volume, you can see how much he's matured as a person, um, and just his, I don't know, him finding fulfillment in life that he wouldn't have found potentially if he was king,
Yeah.
eh, or at least understanding his new place in this world, and he's really taken hold of it. I really admire him for that.
Has he continued growing for you as one of your favorite characters of this story?
Yeah, I think so. I would be lying if I said he was as interesting as he was in the previous volume. I think some of his flamboyancy rubbing off does make him a little more normal. It doesn't make him stand out as much.
Fair.
But I still think he's a very good guy and has a significant role to play that makes me more invested in his plot. So uh, no, I won't say he like became or fell down the rankings at all, but I don't think he substantially grew for me.
Fair.
Um,
Fair.
but yeah, I think he's a fantastic character, and I'm glad that he's still alive
Awesome. Yes, of course.
for the
Of
time
course.
being.
Yes.
You never know. You never
yeah. Never get attached.
know. Yeah. Uh, I'll be honest, or maybe it's I don't. Okay, I'll say it now. I because of what you said, I had just thoughts,
Uh-huh.
and this would be really terrible, and I hope it doesn't happen this way. It doesn't feel like the story would go this way, but I got to put it out there.
Mm-hmm.
So you mentioned that controlling it was a kind of mirror thing,
Yes.
and the queen was obviously, or the princess, excuse me,
Hmm.
was obviously distrustful of him and his intentions. And I think, one, she has right to be that distrustful, but I also don't think Bone has those uh, desires
Right.
yet.
Oh.
like,
Ooh.
like what I'm
Oh.
saying is, what if there is some sort of corruption at some point, and that, yeah. So I hope that doesn't happen. I hope Bone stays the good man that he is. Um, but that would be interesting. But like I said in previous discussions about his brother, I can't even remember his name.
Torta.
Torta,
Mm-hmm.
Torta. I think I said I did that last time as well, and I said I wouldn't forget, but I forgot. So there you go. Um, I was speculating like, what if Torta kind of had a betrayal, but I also said that doesn't seem to be the story that
Yeah.
she would do, like not the plot twist that she would bring in. And I think I would preface this theory with that as well. It doesn't feel like a plot twist that would be part of the story. Although I think it would be much more impactful if it did happen with Bone than it would have been with Torta.
Absolutely. Yeah, and you never know. I feel like Oima pulls some unexpected moves sometimes. Like when you don't expect it, you know.
Yeah,
Like
I,
from time to time, like some little things here and there.
I mean, I don't think it's necessarily predictable or she never has twists. But the kind of twists aren't the ones where I will secretly betray you, kind of a thing, or
Right.
uh, yeah, or done in malice usually. But maybe we just haven't gotten to that point in the story yet.
Fair. Yeah. I mean, I guess Hisame was a little bit in that camp, I guess you could say, because
Kind
she
of.
was definitely, you could tell she was making an effort to not be Hayase, but she, even though she had her within her,
Hmm.
but then she ended up killing Tonari.
Well, that was more the knocker than.
I,
Although she was definitely
okay.
willing to kill her, though. That
Right.
she was
Yeah.
definitely
Yeah.
willing to kill her because. Yeah, you're right. You're right.
Like.
But still, like, did you really trust the spawn of Hayase? Only two generations removed to
Well.
not.
Fair
Come
point.
on.
Fair point.
Anyway, it'll be interesting to see. And let me just say again that the only reason why I just thought that about right now
Hmm?
is because of what you were saying about the parallel. Is
Ah.
like that's the only reason why I even thought about it.
I see.
So
So it's a fresh theory.
you have yourself to blame. It's a fresh theory that
Good.
I didn't get too much time to think about.
Well, that's what I like. Uh, anything more on Bond?
I really like how supportive his family is with his new life. Like,
Yeah.
typically the like a royal family or something would be appalled that I feel like they would be appalled that the son would go that route, or they would disown him or something like that. But they're just so supportive. Like his mom is like, "Yeah, I'm gonna miss you, baby,
Yeah.
but you know, this is what's gonna happen." And I don't know, like it's nice to see that.
Hmm.
So many stories you get these family members or just people that will quickly turn tail or turn against the people that they once loved,
Yeah.
but not so much in this story. I mean, especially with these higher class people, we saw that with Reen's parents. They seemed very supportive of her, as
Yeah,
far as
they
we
did.
know.
Right, for sure, for
Um,
sure.
obviously there was conflict, but
Mm.
still good. And then see with these people, I just love this take.
Yeah,
It's such a refreshing take.
absolutely. I agree completely. And I feel like Bond's family, like literally everyone in that family, they're all oddballs.
Yeah,
Like
they are. They are.
they really belong together. So I'm like it makes a lot of sense that they would never stop loving each other. They're just so good. Literally every single one of them are just strange in a really charming way.
Yeah, it's true. I think that's all I have.
All right. So let's talk about Kahaku next. My boy. I feel like Kahaku is to me what Bon is to you. Sort of.
Yeah, no, yeah, I totally get it. And well, I mean, I understand where you're coming from, but I still don't see the grand appeal. Other than I feel bad for him in his situation. I really do.
Yeah.
Like being kind of a instrument to a Nokker. I mean, obviously he's doing his best to control it, but I mean, at this point, the Nokker is kind of taking control a bit.
Right. I mean, he's not
Um,
just an instrument to the Knocker. He's also an instrument to High Ice's will as well. Like, so he has both of those.
uh,
He does. He does. It was very clear than in the previous volume. I think there was this whole scene where he just went crazy, purely, I'd say, because of High Ice's will that is within him. So he
I don't
has two
know.
things weighing him down. Two things that are,
Hmm.
in some sense, potentially controlling him. Although, not, I mean, to varying degrees and not
Hmm.
constantly. But they're still there, like kind of dormant potentially. And yeah,
I, I think the final thing I'll say on this, just so I think we could, you can understand my point of view, is
right.
that the Knocker is not actually physically or mentally part of him, right?
Well, not not
Like,
not mentally,
it,
no.
right? It's in his arm, and he's able to control it, and I guess extend his limbs in some way. Anyway, there's that. But Hayase's will is part of him. It is him. He is a reincarnation of her will.
Yes.
And they're not the same person,
No.
but he is the reincarnation of his will. He would not exist without Hayase's will, her Phi. Like that they are the same Phi. So I don't think it's fair to him to say, at least in my opinion, to say that that is a burden on him, or at the very least is not something he can control. Um,
Well, he can't, like, it is something that restricts him or that burdens him because he can't always, like, it brings him out of control sometimes, or at least at that one situation when we definitely saw it. If he had been born like any other normal, quote unquote, normal person, without somebody else's phi, like a previous phi, I guess, within him.
well, I what I'm saying is he wouldn't have any like Hayas or Kahaku wouldn't have any other Phi. Like Kahaku is Kahaku because of the Phi he has.
Yes, but he is a special case because he has the phi within him that used to be in somebody else before. Most people don't have that, supposedly.
Supposedly, yeah.
Right.
There could be some reincarnation or stuff like that. We don't
Right.
even know how many Phi there are. There's probably billions upon billions,
Exactly.
upon
But
billions.
I guess like just my general thought about it, at least obviously I don't know for sure, I can't say, but
Yeah.
my general thought usually is that the people in this world, they're born with their own phi unless there is a specific situation, like as in with Hayase's descendants, where they somehow are able to pass that down.
I agree with that, and I think that actually supports what I'm saying, is that Hayase's Phi and Kahaku's Phi are one and the same. And
Yes.
so you can't have Kahaku without Hayase's Phi.
Right. Yeah. Like I agree there. Absolutely. That is the case. I'm just saying because of his circumstances being the way they are, because of his phi having been with somebody else prior to him, he's at a disadvantage in some sense compared to other people because he has this intense will to have a child with Fushi, which other people aren't inherently born with, but he was.
True, like not other people are inherently born with that. You're right.
So I'd say obviously like yes he completely with the phi and everything. I don't argue
Hmm.
with you on that. It's really just it does become a burden in a different sense um, for him. I definitely think so.
That's fair, and I definitely understand where you're coming from, and yeah, maybe as we go forward, I'll think more like you on that. And I'm not saying
Hmm.
I could disagree at all.
Right,
I
right.
just I don't know. I'm not 100% agreeing. Anyway,
Fair. I
it's
mean, completely fair. But anyway, Kahaku helped create the ultimate sleeping potion in this book. I thought that was pretty cool. He
yeah,
and Fushi made like the
yeah.
ultimate sleeping potion. It made me think of Danganronpa with like using the like
Oh,
ultimate
really?
something, like because they do that for like all of the students in Danganronpa are like the ultimate
Oh,
something, ultimate baseball player, ultimate fan fiction writer, ultimate blah 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 whatever, you know. Uh, I don't know. But anyway, I thought that was obviously pretty cool. You know, he comes from a family, you know, with a history of that, so and he's now able to create like the best sleeping potion to have ever existed, supposedly. Very cool.
incredible.
And he did that to help Fushi help Bon, which was also
Yeah,
really nice to see him. You know, he's not just there for the sake of Fushi. He's really, you know, he wants to help the world, and Bon is a very important person for the world right now, at least the way Kahaku sees it. And just in general, you know, as we've seen in previous volumes, he really does a great job for the world, killing knockers around the kingdoms and stuff like that. He really
right.
he's doing great deeds.
Yeah, I think he's really taken the Guardian aspect, and I think maybe even made him better. I'm not exactly. I can't
Yeah.
say for sure what the previous reincarnations were doing, other than
Mm,
trying to simp for Fushi.
fair.
But
That's fair.
and maybe it was a progressive change for the better. But I
Right.
think definitely Kahaku is um, trying to do good things, like being righteous
Mm,
in that sense. And I really appreciate him for that.
definitely.
He's taking the rejection hard, man.
Yeah, exactly. I was just gonna get to that. He is heartbroken, as you said. You know, definitely feeling bad about that, and as well as pretty much also right before this, he had to disband the Guardians for at least a while at
Hmm.
the start of this book. So with the
Right.
Guardians being disbanded and him feeling that heartbroken, he was in a bad place, and he got pretty drunk in
Wasted.
that one scene. It was really sad to see him that way. And he, you know, he tried to kill that knocker in his arm because he's, I mean, rightfully upset with it.
Yeah,
And yeah, yeah, life sucked for him that right there.
indeed. But he picks himself up.
Exactly, exactly. He did, and he reassembled in the Guardians, and yeah, they do great work. There was that one little bit near the end of
Hmm.
the volume where Fushi asked the beholder what everyone else is up to, and we could see like a panel or so of Bon as well as Kahaku like doing great things like helping to rebuild and stuff like that. So yeah, really great stuff. And obviously we'll talk about that knocker in his arm very soon.
Right.
Uh, but anything else on Kahaku specifically?
So Fushi says you enjoy the changes too. What did he mean by that? And he's telling Kawaku that, and Kawaku's like, "Oh, okay," and that kind of leads to his pick me up, like his will to keep going. What did he mean by that?
Oh yeah, I recognize that now that you say it. I feel like that was something I was going to think some more about, but then ultimately forgot about.
Hmm. Well, I'll save the trouble. I have no idea. I really thought about it, and I my one thought is Bone is enjoying the changes, or he's embracing the changes to his life,
Right. Oh yeah.
and because of that, he's finding new fulfillment. And I guess there have been changes to Kahaku's life as well, like the Guardians being disbanded and etc.
Mm.
So maybe Fushi was telling him to embrace the change and keep moving forward.
Right.
Freedom, tatakae. Wait, no, sorry,
Yeah.
got carried away.
Yeah. I mean, things are different now. At least you know, with his guardians. At that point, at least, when Fushi tells him that things have changed for all of them pretty much.
Hmm.
Fuji is presumably dead. Bon is presumably dead. Kahaku's guardians are disbanded. So things are just in general. Well, things have changed. So I guess it's just something Fushi's trying to say to cheer him up. I guess as you were saying,
Okay.
like things are different, but don't let that get you down. Maybe something like that,
Hmm. Okay. Okay.
perhaps. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't have any better ideas than you do.
No, I No, I think that's good. I honestly have no idea,
Mm,
but
mm.
yeah, I think that was good. Good to hear.
For sure, for sure. All right, but then well, let's move on to the knockers then.
Oof, yeah, big reveal.
Yes. So, well, not only has the knocker, at least the knocker in Kahaku's arm has learned human language and can now
Yeah.
communicate through writing. Although I also got the feeling that maybe that's like, obviously, there's still, even though we did learn a lot about the knockers in this book, I feel like there's still a lot we
Uh,
don't know about them.
oh yes, yes, yeah.
And I'm thinking, or at least the impression that I've gotten is that they maybe they sort of share knowledge with each other through some sort of hive mind, maybe.
That's what I thought at first. Like as the story progressed, that's what I was thinking. But after this volume, I don't. Is it really a hive mind? It almost seems like this knocker is acting on its own,
Mm.
and while it can communicate with the other ones, they do at the same time share their own thoughts and whatnot.
Right. Yeah, I guess it could be a hive mind in the sense of they share information with each other, or
Mm-hmm.
actually I don't even know about that, because if we are to trust the knocker in Kahaku's arm, well,
Mm-hmm.
basically what I was about to suggest was that maybe they share information, but they don't share objectives or goals. What
Hmm.
was what I was about to suggest, but then I remembered that the knocker in Kahaku's arm claims that it was tricked by the other knockers. You know, after it
Yeah.
gave false information about the knocker where Fushi would be able to get back his other forms.
Mm-hmm.
So it claims that it was tricked by the other knockers, and it is also later on referred to as a traitor to the other knockers.
Yeah.
Although like all of that could be bluffs, you know,
True.
absolutely
True.
could be. But I guess especially for that last message, when it seemed like the knocker in Kahaku's arm was giving a message from the other knockers. When it said, you know, that the knocker in Kahaku's arm was a traitor, and when it gave the
Mm-hmm.
information about their attack at Ranreal, you know,
Mm-hmm.
in a year, that it seemed like it was sort of channeling the information from other knockers, which would indicate that perhaps other knockers also know how to write, like they also know human language at that point.
Oh, you think so?
Maybe at least if that message came from, or I guess they could have just given that knocker the message and then it translated it for them. I guess that's also a possibility.
That's my thinking. Is
Mm,
they're able to communicate with each other, maybe not through words, but just maybe thoughts or whatever. And
right.
but this knocker is able to express that through writing.
That I think that's probably a fair assessment. And whether like yeah again like how much we can trust it is up for debate because it could easily be bluffing, but it's also possible that it isn't. It would be awesome if it's not, you know, if this actually
Right.
is
Yeah.
a knocker who's willing to, for some reason, help us out.
Right.
But yeah. Anyway, going back to like the initial kind of reveals that the knockers started giving us in this volume when they took control of Kahaku's arm and started writing the first time, we learned that their goal is to quote unquote save everyone by severing their fi from their bodies, aka
Mm-hmm.
killing them. And we also learned that the knockers themselves supposedly are controlled by fi as well, like by previous humans, like humans who lived in the past are now. Is
Mm-hmm.
that maybe like their souls are now controlling the knockers?
Oh. Mm,
Perhaps like because
mm.
that's all we know about fi is that they they come from bodies or they are together with bodies, and when they die the fi lives on. So could it be that all of the knockers are ex-humans? Maybe.
So, hmm. Um, I'm debating on if I want to share this or not.
Oh.
So, Peter, I'll leave it to you if you want to keep this or not. You can edit it out or what have you.
Uh-huh.
And I don't know if I've told you this, Peter, but I think as I've read this story, I see a lot of similarities to my religion. A lot of similarities.
I see. If this is something like, as long as this is something that you feel like keep like sharing, then
Hmm.
I don't mind. Like if you, it's up to you. I'd say 100%.
So I won't go into great detail, but in my religion, there was a premortal existence,
Hmm.
and in this existence, everyone was spirits, and I guess you can compare that to Phi. We were intelligences,
Right.
and these Phi, uh, we'll just use Phi to connect them.
Right.
Were given a choice to follow one side or the other. The one side being God, the other side being the devil. And again, I'm simplifying this.
Right.
Um, the devil wanted everyone to experience life, but be forced to choose a certain way. There was no freedom of choice, and God's way was to give people their freedom of choice and to experience a body. And so there was a war in heaven, and obviously, I mean, as far as like theology goes, the good side wins, and
Hmm.
we were able to have choice and whatnot. But the Phi that chose to side with the devil still exist as
Mm.
just Phi, as just spirits, and they are very much against the the people of the good people of getting bodies, because one of the main objectives of coming to the earth is to gain a body and then eventually have a immortal body, a body that does not die, eternal life. And because these Phi that sided with the devil cannot have that body, they try to bring others down with them. And
Oh.
yeah, so basically they're trying to fight against this whole plan, because if we had chosen the devil's plan, there would be no pain, there would be no suffering. We would all choose good. We would all come back and have a resurrected body. There would be no falling out.
Hmm.
So in that sense, and there's a lot of other things that are very eerily similar to my beliefs,
Interesting.
well, my religion,
Right.
and but this one in particular is just so eerily close that I was like, what? How? Like, did she like read up on this? Like the our beliefs? I doubt it, but
I mean, it's
I mean,
possible. You never know.
it's possible. You never know. I have no idea what her religious. Actually, I was so curious that I tried looking up if she had any sort of religious affiliation,
Right.
and no, I couldn't see any.
I would say even if she doesn't, there's still a possibility that it's something that might have interested her. Like you don't necessarily have to believe in a religion to be interested in it and want to maybe draw inspiration from it. There's that.
Maybe she really studied up on it, because there's some deep deep doctrine stuff that is pulled up. But either way, it's fascinating to me, and that's how I see the story. That's where my lens is coming from right now,
Uh-huh.
is that these Phi, for some reason, are against experiencing the pains and trials of the world. They feel like that's bad, and so that's why part of me doesn't think they have already experienced life,
Right.
or humans that die. They're just Phi that exist in this plane, this premortal existence,
Mm.
uh, but are against the idea of suffering on Earth. So they they want to prevent that. That's my thought process. I could be completely wrong.
Right. I mean, dude, regardless of whether you're wrong or not, I thought that was a really interesting. Like, I'm very happy for like that you shared that because that's definitely really really interesting. Like, obviously nothing that I ever thought about. You know,
Was that okay for me to say that? I don't know.
I
Like,
think so. If you're okay with it, I am.
okay, I'm always worried about sharing my beliefs because I feel like people are gonna misjudge me or mistreat me. So it's very hard for me to put myself out there like that.
Mm.
So if you do have strong feelings against that, I totally understand. Not you, Petter, but
Right.
people listening.
Yes. Yes.
I totally understand that. Feel free to express them to me, but please don't misjudge me because of that.
Yes.
That's all I'll say. But to me, I guess it's just connecting what I know, or not know, but what I believe, what I grew up with, and connecting to this story, and just seeing some of the parallelisms.
Yeah. Yeah. I do think it's really interesting to see that these well, like there's the possibility like this might have been something that Oyama may have potentially pulled from. Uh, although at the same time,
Maybe we'll never know.
it's also a possibility that it's just a coincidence. You know,
Right.
it could be.
Totally.
But if it is drawn from there, then in that case, I am probably wrong about the well when I suggested that these knockers might have in the past been humans that died.
Uh-huh.
But then again, we can't know for sure
Right.
what the case is. So I could also be right, but yeah, definitely interesting food for thought though. Absolutely, very happy you shared that.
It's interesting that they say they can't refuse those who make the flesh eternal. Um, it's almost as if this has been going on for a long time. Um,
Hmm.
and just real quick, another thing that part of my belief is they're eternal beings, and there are worlds upon worlds
Hmm.
of existence. And so, and this will tie it to the beholder later on, but I think this implies that something like this has been going on for a long time, and these Phi are very much against it.
Right,
Uh, it almost implies there are multiple. There has to be other examples of eternal beings, right? If
right,
if if they're against it.
yeah. Yeah, and obviously this is stuff that we've sort of speculated on since like volume 2 or so. Like
Mm-hmm,
the
mm-hmm.
existence of other eternal, beings. So
Yeah.
definitely could be.
I mean, how do they know that Fushi can create eternal bodies for the Phi?
Exactly. Yeah, that was also really interesting. They started to sort of give some information. They tried to correct Kahaku, and Kahaku,
Mm-hmm.
well, he said that that Fushi doesn't have that power. They
Mm-hmm.
started to sort of correct him, but obviously Bon interrupted him.
It's like no, 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 no.
But it seemed since Bon scratched that out, it seemed like Bon was trying to prevent the knockers from revealing obviously that Fushi is able to
Mm-hmm.
revive dead people. But could there be even more to that, especially since what Kahaku was talking about right
Mm.
before that was the actual existence of eternal bodies? Could that have been what they were saying that
Oh.
Fushi can actually create? You know, Maybe Bon was
Oh.
just jumping the gun a little too early on that. And what if this is yet another power that we don't know of that Fushi possesses? I think that could be really, really interesting.
I mean, I think you're onto something. Uh, we'll talk about it with the beholder.
All right, all right. But yeah, like the knockers definitely despise the beholder and Fushi, especially because they are able to, well, quote unquote, create eternal bodies. Obviously, the beholder literally, we've seen him literally do that by creating Fushi, and Fushi in a sense does it already by creating his own body. He can like recreate it and stuff like that. So in that sense, Fushi does create an eternal body for himself. But we haven't seen him do it for others. But I do still, as I said earlier, I think it is possible that maybe that's something he can do in the future,
Mm-hmm.
that create separate other eternal bodies.
Fascinating stuff.
Yeah,
The beholder mentions that the the knockers will only be happy if they succeed in killing all life or whatever,
yeah,
killing all the bodies. Almost implying that certain sensations or feelings are not possible without a body. I
yeah.
don't know if that's just me reading too much into it, but because it'd just be merely happy, and and he says, I think he says because they don't have a body.
Well, he at least he does imply, or he doesn't argue against the Knocker's viewpoint. Uh, he did say that they would probably still be happy even without a body.
I mean, he said only be happy, like as if they had a body, they could experience more feelings. I
Possibly.
don't know.
Yeah, yeah. It,
I
it
don't know.
might just be some level of contentness, like like
Okay.
maybe. I mean, I obviously I don't know,
Yeah.
but actually
Yeah.
regarding that, Kahaku likened the Knocker's viewpoint with the Yanome legends. About death will set us free. That's something that Hayase was telling March about back in Volume 1. I mean, it's
Mm-hmm.
clearly inspired by paradise or heaven in at least in Christian beliefs. or at least the way it sounded back then when Hayase was talking about it. And but I thought it was interesting that Kahaku brought it back up now, and like yeah, like death will set us free, like almost as if it's something good. And the beholder, as I said, didn't really argue against that point. That
Mm.
spirits can probably still be glad even without bodies. And so Fushi asked himself, or he kind of asked out loud, if we can obtain happiness by dying, then what are we living for?
Mm.
To which the knight at the church replied, to learn just that.
Yeah, I love that quote.
That was, I thought, interesting, definitely interesting to think about. And like, it seems, or well, obviously he explained himself afterward that that was something he just kind of, oh, well, something that just kind of came out of him, like a spur of the
Mm-hmm.
moment thought that he responded with. But it does seem to imply that the meaning of life is to find out the meaning of life, kind of. Um,
Yeah.
which I don't think that's a bad answer to that question, honestly.
I mean, it's obviously it's a bit vague, but I think it is thought provoking.
Yeah, yeah.
I think you could take it a few ways, but going off what you said, I think it is true. A meaning of life could be to find meaning in our life,
Hmm. Yeah,
um,
100%.
and I think it goes along with kind of the enjoying the moment and just living in the experiences that we have day by
Yes.
day.
Right, yeah, like Piorin's view on life, kind of.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. A quote I live by is, "Life is meant to be enjoyed, not just endured."
Yes. Oh,
So
yes.
I wholeheartedly believe that, and sometimes I have to tell myself that. I have moments in my life, but that's something that helps me keep things in perspective.
That's awesome. The knocker in Kahaku's arm seems to sort of be spreading more and more throughout his body, at least when he's using the knocker powers, as we saw at least
Hmm.
at one point in this volume. And
Yeah.
Fushi sort of took note of it, like it was kind of, you could see kind of the veins or the roots or whatever of that knocker going all the way up to Kahaku's face. So that was a little bit worrisome.
Yeah, a little bit.
It had gone down, like it had retracted or whatever later on. So at least
Hmm.
it's not permanent, but it's yeah, it does make me worry about Kahaku.
Indeed. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know how long he's going to be able to control it. It looked like he was controlling it so well, and even Fushi commented,
Mm.
did
Yeah.
anyway. Uh, he mentioned that it had gotten smaller, the knocker.
Yes.
But I mean, I don't know if that's the case anymore. Maybe it's grown in size since then, and now it's just slowly taking control. I
Yeah.
don't know.
Hmm. Yeah. It's exciting, and nerve wracking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're just, oh, I love Kaku so much.
I do.
Yes, suffer more.
But I've said this before. I think I've said it even back, like in one of our Kaguya-sama discussions. I tend to be drawn to characters that suffer
Hmm.
for some reason.
I don't mind a bit of suffering here and there.
Yeah. Yeah. But my last little thing about the knockers here is the warning about the attack on Venreal in a year.
Hmm.
It's the biggest city in the kingdom or in the continent. One of those things.
Continent.
Like continent, yeah, like a huge
Hmm.
city, at least for this day and age. And yeah, like did do they really just give the warning for like the sense of like seeing it as a game, or do you think there might be other reasons for them warning about this attack?
Hmm. I mean, I think they're always going to have ulterior motives,
Mm.
um, and perhaps they feel as if they could use this messenger knocker to their advantage. I don't necessarily think they're going to attack somewhere different, but maybe they do want to toy with the feelings of everyone and
Yeah.
whatnot. But it's hard to say. I mean, it's hard to trust the knocker to begin with. The knocker in uh, Kaku's hand,
For sure, for sure.
but yeah, I have no idea what they're motives could be.
It remains to be seen, as a lot of things, especially related to the Knockers.
Right.
I do love how even though we got so much new information on them, there's still so much we don't know.
Yeah, I think one of the biggest things for me is where does this odd, fleshy body or this vessel come from that these knockers take? They're supposed to be Phi, but if they're Phi, then when they inhabit these vessels, like the knockers can't be like the knocker form can't be what the form of Phi are, right? Um,
No, they like well without a vessel from Fushi that they've stolen, all they can really control seemingly is vines and stuff, right? Or like roots and things like that, like
oh, so okay,
plant life.
so they're actually so it's actually like it's not, but Pioran and Fushi both eat a knocker,
Yes.
and it's like implied that the things that these vessels aren't a plant or something you'd find, and they're consistently the same type of material.
Well, yeah, yeah. Like the core of the knocker is that thing. Like I guess that's the knocker
Right.
itself, technically, but they can
So
like
what is that?
mm,
That's not the Phi. Like
right. Oh yeah.
the Phi inhabit it or control it
Right.
or whatever.
Yeah, that is also interesting.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, yeah, I do know. Yeah. Hmm.
So I just wonder. I mean, maybe this is a material that exists somewhere in the world, or is there a ringleader that is somehow able to create these things and
Hmm.
let the Phi inhabit them?
Right.
I don't know. It's obviously we can't say no, but that's like the biggest mystery for me.
Yeah. Definitely interesting to think about. But is that it for the knockers?
Yeah.
Then let's talk a bit about the beholder. Um, so the ability that Fushi learned in this volume about keeping creating things out of the other things that he created, and thus continuously
Mm-hmm.
spreading. I feel, and you've probably had this thought too, could have been how the beholder created this world.
Yeah.
Going along with our theories from the previous volume discussion.
Mm-hmm.
And if Fushi keeps this up and becomes better and better at doing this, he will probably eventually have, in a sense, remade this world, making it his, as
Mm.
they've talked about sort of for this volume and a few volumes before this. So that it's possible that could have been what the Beholder went through many, many, many years prior.
Totally. That's I messaged Petter, and I was like, I think I have. Well, I was on a run, and I had just read the volume, and I was actually listening to I think volume 6 discussion,
Mm.
and as I was running, I had this epiphany about the beholder,
Yeah.
and I was like, I think I figured it out.
Nice.
I don't have it all figured out, but here's my thinking. Just like you, I think he potentially also had a uh, a journey like Fushi where he learned all about all of his powers and eventually learned how to create a world,
Mm.
and maybe he is passing that along to Fushi.
Mm.
And I don't know if that's continuously new worlds each time, um, why that needs to be or what. Maybe their duty is to give vessels for the Phi to come down and eventually experience life. But um, it's I don't. It's fascinating to think about, and again, is really close to what my religion believes.
Ah.
I that all in there, but what really got me thinking was the the freedom line from the previous volume, from the Beholder,
Mm.
where Bone asks, what's in it for you? Like, what's your reward or whatever?" And he replies, "Freedom." What if the freedom he mentions is not necessarily for Fushi, but for him, the beholder? He gains freedom.
Huh.
He's able to move on.
Oh yeah.
It could maybe I don't know, because what maybe Fushi reaches a point of um uh omnipotency, and the beholder passes on, and
Yeah.
then Fushi experiences the same thing, maybe.
Exactly. Yeah. Right.
I,
That's what we talked about last time, kind of. And like right and like but going along with what you were suggesting about the beholder referring to the freedom for himself, it could be that seeing as he has supposedly lived for an eternity already,
mm-hmm.
freedom for him might just be to cease to exist.
Yeah.
You know. Uh,
Yeah.
so yeah, I think that could be. Yeah, there could definitely be something there.
Thank you for humoring me. I
Right.
That was just my big whoa thing. But again, I can't exactly say that's where it's going.
Right.
Um,
Of
but
course.
as far as my understanding goes,
Hmm.
that's where I feel like it.
Still interesting though. Definitely.
Yeah.
Do we have anything more on the beholder?
At the very least, he has the same ability, the sensory cortex as Fushi. Hence, why he's able to pinpoint where the knockers are. So
Exactly.
he's really able to tell a lot about what's happening around the world. Um,
Right.
and that implies that Fushi will be able to one day, maybe.
Exactly. This really even further kind of, well, sort of confirmed that everything that the beholder can do, Fushi will one day be able to do too,
Hmm.
which is a really interesting
Exciting.
thought. Yeah. So a few minor characters, like at least for this volume, that didn't have too much of a presence, but that I still would like to, I guess, at least touch on. Iris, she she should become like a ninja or something, like scaling walls and infiltrating a castle
That
without
was
anyone
amazing.
seeing. Like, assuming she was telling the truth, which I think she was.
Oh
Uh,
yeah,
like, yeah, mad skills.
mad skills. That the whole interaction with Bone was so awkward. Like,
It was. It was.
I don't blame uh, Bone per se because he's just coming to the realization that the person he thought was a man was actually this girl he had a crush on way back when.
Hmm.
And yeah, so and obviously it's got to be a little awkward for Iris too. It's like, yeah,
Yeah.
I've I've been hiding my true identity this whole time.
Mm.
Um, but I like how she went about it. It wasn't like this bubbly, heart-filled moment when they see each other. Like it takes time for Bone to get used to the fact, and he's like, look, that's not the girl I imagined. Like you're some tomboy. Like that's not what I was expecting. And at the same time, I do think he went too far and hurt her feelings. But I'm glad he
Yeah.
apologized.
Right. Right.
I'm mostly talking about Bowen here, but the thing is she didn't have a whole lot, but I hope that maybe down the line they'll get a little more time together,
Hmm.
and we could see some actual fireworks. No pun intended.
Exactly.
Actually, yes, pun intended.
Yes. Absolutely. And I mean, I don't know if it was foreshadowing or not, but when they both sort of promised to take care of Chabby together,
Mm-hmm. Champo.
sort of, and he made the remark like, "Hey, that sounds kind of like we're a family."
Yeah. Don't do that. Don't. Red flags. Don't do that.
Yeah.
Another red flag was when she says, "No matter how many years, I'll be waiting for you," or something like that.
Mm.
And I was like, that can go either way. you know,
Yep.
it could be like she actually does wait that long and they live happily ever after, or something terrible goes wrong. Um,
Yeah.
so, yeah, which way are we going, Oima? You lead the way,
Will she be the second Reen?
or will she die?
Right. Who knows? Who knows? I mean, maybe I know,
Yeah.
but anyway.
Well, yeah, maybe you don't.
Um,
Maybe you don't. Uh,
maybe I don't.
I'm just curious. So, what do you think about Iris so far?
I think she's cool. I think. I mean, obviously she's a minor character
Yeah.
comparatively, but I do definitely enjoy her for what she is. And something I thought was cool related to her and Bond this volume. I guess it started a little bit in the previous one, but especially, or yeah, definitely especially in this one, is kind of how Iris was pretending to be somebody else until now, but now she's
Mm-hmm.
actually open about who she is. Meanwhile,
It's true.
Bon has had the complete opposite switch, where he is now pretending to be somebody else, but before he was completely himself. So I thought that was a fun kind of opposite thing going on with
Oh
with those
yeah,
two characters.
nice comparison. Yeah, I like it.
But yeah, that's all I had on Iris.
Yeah, but hey, the secret to weight loss is just not eating.
Right? Yeah, apparently.
Actually, at least for me, that kind of has helped.
Oh.
I mean, okay, look, starving yourself like that, no, 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 no.
No, no.
I don't. That's not good.
No, definitely
But
not.
counting your calories, eating less,
Hmm.
than you burn is the way to go. You don't need all these fad diets. You don't need keto. You don't need all that. Just eat less. Anyway, I'm done.
As long as you keep it healthy. Definitely keep that in mind too, you know.
Yeah, I mean, you can't be eating French fries all the time.
Yeah,
Although,
but what I meant, I guess, is like don't eat so little that it's an unhealthy amount of
oh,
food.
oh,
Like,
yes, yes, yes.
That's all I meant.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry. Yes.
But yes. I have one other minor character that I want to touch on. It's the one I mentioned briefly a little earlier, the knight at the church.
Dude, I was thinking about them too.
Yeah, he seems like a really, really solid and good and nice guy.
Right?
But and like the fact that he appeared at least in two scenes made me feel like, okay, could there be something more here? Like we have no face and
Yeah.
not really anything really, but there just seems to be some kind of importance to this dude.
So here's what I wrote down. I said, probably a nobody, but would be nice to meet again.
Yeah,
Like,
yes.
you know, Oima, a lot of their back characters, she doesn't give a face to, especially if if they're a soldier. Like they don't have a face; they just have the helmet on, which probably helps with drawing.
Yeah.
But so usually you see like a person with a helmet, and it's like, oh, they're a nobody. But there's something about this character that makes me wonder if we'll see them again.
Yeah.
Okay, all right, okay. Crazy theory time. This is crazy.
All right.
But what if the soldier was the princess? Like,
Oh.
wouldn't that be crazy?
The Princess of Renreal?
Yeah, I don't know what their voice. I don't know. Obviously, I can't hear what the voice was, but
True. Well,
I
yeah.
don't know. They didn't. They never like gendered the person. You know what I mean?
Fair.
So
Completely fair.
I know that's way out there, but I was just thinking it's like, oh, could this be somebody? But I don't know. Maybe it's nobody. At the very least, I hope we get him to return because his philosophy and mindset is just really nice to have.
Yes. Definitely. So, do you have any other character you'd like to talk about?
I want to bring up the Princess of Renreal again.
Yes.
Just that we don't see her face. So and the fact that the next arc is about Renreal, it almost feels like she could become a somewhat important character, and that we will get to see her face one day. I don't know if it's going to be surprising or if just like, oh, that's what she looks like kind of a thing.
Well, yeah.
But that's my prediction. I think we will see her. That's my prediction.
Nice. Sweet prediction.
I say that, and now I'm gonna be totally wrong.
Hey, it's good. It's good. I guess so. That's all for the characters. Moving on to the final bit with potential predictions, as well as I guess maybe if we have anything else for the volume that we want to touch on. What do you got?
Oh well, my only prediction was about the princess, but I figured like, oh, that's a character, so
Gotcha.
there.
Cool.
But I think that's all I got.
Okay, cool, nice. I guess the highlight for me with this volume was, I think, to see the introduction of Echo for me. I thought, she was a character that I've been waiting to, to have her introduced into the story. So I was really happy to see her again, or well, to see her for the first time. So yeah,
I'm intrigued by her. I think for me it was his power up, like the sensory cortex or whatever, and his newfound ability to just create things. Oh,
that's so cool.
So cool.
Yeah.
So great.
Yep.
So many possibilities. Can't wait.
Absolutely. Yeah. And that's, as we said at the beginning of the discussion, like that power, in addition to all the information we got about the Nokkers, like there was just so much we learned.
Yeah.
So many new things about like the various supernatural things. Really, really interesting stuff we got here.
Indeed.
So yeah, guess that's all for this week. If you enjoy our content, you can follow us on Twitter at Umami Manga, and it would be lovely if you'd like to support us by either rating our show on the podcast platforms or subscribing to our channel Umami Manga on YouTube. If you like this episode, please share it around with anyone you think might enjoy it too. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll see you next time, where we'll talk about Volume 10. Bye bye!
See ya!